harder and harder to stretch your income to meet all your bills. Now, we've all heard of the basic advice, you know, don't buy coffee out, make it at home. But today I want to share 10 tips that I use and I think might be helpful if you haven't tried them before. They're very easy to do, very simple, but they're not talked about very often. So I thought I'd share them today and I hope some of them help. Take what's useful and leave the rest. My name's Rachel and this is Rachel for Real. I'm on a low spend year in 2025 and I'm trying to make my money stretch further. Okay, so number one, rotate your food so you don't waste it and throw it away. Now, I'm sure we've all been in the cupboards and there's stuff left at the back of the cupboards that hasn't seen the light of day for about 5 years. Guilty. You know, those old tins that you thought, oh yeah, you know, I'll be really healthy and use all these beans. And then you don't get around to using them. They go out of date. They leave sticky marks on the shelves. Well, if you look at the dates and you pull those forwards to the front of the shelves, and anything you buy new, you put to the back of the shelves, you're more likely to use the stuff that's going to go out of date faster. And I know tins last a long time, but you know, even they have their expiry date eventually. And also rotate the food in your fridge. My salad drawer at the bottom of my fridge has seen quite a lot of very bendy carrots that have sat there too long, lots of slimy lettuce, and it's a waste of money, isn't it? So if we rotate our food and we only buy what we need, then we're less likely to throw food away, which is wasteful. It wastes money and you've worked hard for that money. Don't waste it, don't throw it in the bin. So rotate your food. If you've got fresh food that needs using, put it on a shelf in the fridge and use that before you use anything else. The second tip, use half the laundry detergent recommended on the package. We use a lot of laundry detergent. Whether you use liquid or powder, you can reduce the amount that you're using probably by about half. And it also prolongs the life of your machine. You don't need anywhere near as much to clean your clothes thoroughly as the manufacturers would let you believe on the instructions. Now, if you use the capsules, there's not a lot you can do about those because you throw one in the bottom of the drum and you know you can't split it and keep the rest very easily. So this really only works for liquid detergent or powder detergent. But if you use those, use less. So I'm looking at my notes. I normally make these videos in the morning when I'm a bit more awake, but I just got home from work and I'm feeling a bit frazzled. So I do have to look at my notes, unfortunately. So the third tip to save some money, use your local library. Now, if you're not a reader, you probably think, well, I've got no reason to use my library. But libraries these days are very different from, you know, when I was a child. They offer so much more, such as magazines, obviously books. You can use the computers and the internet in there. My local library does activities for children. They have a Lego club and all sorts of other activities for children and put on extra activities in school holidays, and they're all free. The adults are catered to as well. Mostly these in my local library are in the daytime, such as crafting groups and knitting groups. I think there's also a chess club for adults and children, and there is, I don't know if it's Warhammer, it's one of these sort of, you know, group strategy games, and I see people in there sometimes playing those as a group, and it's a nice way to socialise as well. That's completely free as well. So all sorts of things. You can download books to read at home, ebooks and audiobooks. My library uses an app called Libby where I can get free magazines, and these days in the UK, you know, a magazine's $5.99, $6.99, and that's a lot of money. So if you can read them for free on an app, fabulous. You've also got the use of the computers, and you've also got a reference section if you like looking things up yourself, like local history or genealogy. I think they have people who can help you with that. Now, in different countries, I don't know if you have the same facilities, you might have more. So check out your local library. Great resource. They're not all be quiet like they used to be. They're very accessible, and the more people who use them, the more we get to keep them and have that wonderful facility. Turn off all the appliances that you're not using. A lot of us leave things on standby all the time, and although it doesn't take a lot of power, it still takes some power. And although you're not going to see hundreds of pounds in your bank account as a saving on your electricity, it all helps, doesn't it? And at the moment, a lot of people are struggling and trying to make their money stretch. So every little thing that you can do to save a few pennies, it mounts up and it all helps. So turn them off if you're not using them. All those little lights that shine all the time, they're all using some amount of electricity. So that's a good way to save money as well. Borrow or share if you can. Recently, I wanted to put shading paint over my greenhouse because all the plants were getting frazzled and I've lost a lot of seedlings. First time I've had a greenhouse, so it's all a big learning experience, and losing my seedlings made me think, need to do something about this. So although I'm reasonably tall, I can't reach to paint the paint on the sort of apex of the greenhouse. And I looked at the prices of the rollers on the long sticks, the extendable poles, and I don't know, it seemed like an awful lot of money to spend on something that I'm barely going to use. I maybe use it once or twice a year, if that. So I texted my son and said, have you got a long roller pole that I could borrow, please? Yes, he says, we've got one, because they've just been decorating their house that they moved into just over a year ago. So I went and collected that and I took it. It was perfect. I'd got a paint tray and everything already, so I didn't need to spend money on that. So I did the painting, put the shading paint on the greenhouse, cleaned up the pole and the roller, and took them back to him. So if you can borrow and share things that you don't use very often, it's a really good way of saving money. Locally to me, we have a library of things. It's a brilliant idea. You can have a look online and on their website and see what they have in the library of things, everything from garden tools, kitchen appliances, things like that, which you can request and say the dates you need it. If it's available, you can go and get it, borrow it. I think there's a small charge, which is reasonable. People have donated these things to the group, so it's only fair that you spend a little bit of money, but it's pennies. It's nowhere near what you'd spend if you bought the item yourself. So if it's things like perhaps a garden shredder, or one of the things I'd like to borrow this summer is a pressure canner. I know these are very popular in America. I don't know about the rest of the world, but we don't really have them here. I don't know why. We have water canners, but we don't have the pressure canners. So they have one available at the Eco Hub, which I think if I get a glut of tomatoes or anything like that, I want to can them. And rather than have the expense of buying a canner and all the equipment, I can borrow it. I also live in a small flat. I don't really have space to store all these gadgets. So by, spending a little bit of money to effectively rent the item, I can use it for what I want and then give it back, and it's not taking up space and it hasn't cost me a lot of money to buy. So that's perfect. Anything you can borrow from friends or family will save you money, and you can return the favour by lending them things that they need, which you already have. Another way of saving money is to use refill shops. Part of the Eco Hub in my town has a refill shop associated with it. They used to have their own shop, but I think that probably proved too expensive. So they've linked up with the Eco Hub, and they're now there several times a week, twice a week, maybe several times a week. And you can go up and fill your bottles that are empty and fill them up with shampoo and washing up liquid or anything you need like that. I'm not sure if they have dry goods there for food, but they might do. I know that other shops in towns nearby to me do dry goods in bulk, and you just take along a clean container, weigh the container, fill it with the goods you want, and then go and pay for it. So you're not using loads of plastic, you're using things that you've already got around the house, old jars, Tupperware tubs, things like that. And as long as you clean them and sterilise them, they're going to be absolutely fine. You don't need to buy special containers. Take them along, fill them up with the goods. You get a better price because they buy in bulk. You just buy what you want, and it's perfect. They're a really good idea. I wish we had a food one closer to me, you know, where you can buy nuts, seeds, oats, flour, all that kind of thing. I know that they're quite big in some states in America. Certainly I've seen people on YouTube who are using them, and they can get everything from, you know, peanut butter that comes out of a machine to fill their jar up with, to, you know, pretty much any dry good that you can think of, and it's wonderful. So use refill shops when you can. Occasionally they are a little bit more expensive, but if you can afford it and you are selective in what you buy from them, then it can save you money. It's certainly more sustainable, so I would recommend using those if you are able. Another one is buying wonky vegetables and fruit. There seemed to be I don't know, it was sort of government thing, certainly an EU thing when the UK was part of the EU. Not sure if it's the same in America or New Zealand, Australia or other parts in the world, but they had this thing where everything had to be a standard size and bananas had to be a standard shape, and it just got ridiculous. The things I grow on my allotment, you know, they're wonky sometimes. They're not all the same size. They don't all look like the same colour, but they taste amazing. And once you've chopped up your vegetables, you know, they're all the same at the end of the day, aren't you? So they have bags in the supermarkets now with wonky vegetables, where you can buy boxes that get delivered to your house with wonky vegetables and fruits in them. You know, they don't look perfect, but then it doesn't need to be perfect, does it? You know, you're going to eat it, you're going to chop it up, you're going to cook it, you're going to eat it. And they do come in much cheaper than the standardized sized and shaped vegetables. So if you get a chance to buy wonky vegetables, take them home, give them some love. They can't help being the shape they are, and save yourself some money at the same time. The next two are saving money when you're driving. So the first one is keeping your tyre pressures at the right pressure. If they get too deflated, you use more fuel, so you use more petrol or diesel. It's not as economical to drive a car. So if you keep them at the pressure that they're supposed to be and you check them regularly, you'll get better fuel consumption, and that will save you money. Also, regarding cars, if you take out anything from the boot that you don't absolutely need, so anything that you kind of store in there but you don't need regularly, take it out, take that weight out of the car. Try not to store anything in the car just in case. It's all extra weight, which will use more fuel and cost you more money. Now, I know some people have to keep equipment in their vehicles for work. That's a separate thing, isn't it? You know, there's only so much you can do. But if you're just a regular car driver, van driver, and you can empty the contents of your car out, it will save you money because the car weighs less and therefore uses less fuel. I think we're at the end. I've stopped counting now. I've forgotten what I'm doing and now I've lost a piece of paper. So yeah, those are some of the tips that I use myself. They might be useful to you too. They're not talked about as often as some of the other things like buying groceries in bulk and not buying coffee out, that kind of thing. All of which are great suggestions. You know, these are no better or worse, but you know, they maybe make you have a think about whether you could adopt these practices, whether you can think of other things. I'd love your ideas down in the comments. We can all share ideas because we're all stretching our dollar, stretching our pound because of the prices increasing all the time. So let's help each other with this. Let's not spend more than we need to. You know, enough's enough. Let's cut back where we can. And I hope that some of this has been helpful to you. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Share it with anybody who you know might be interested in the contents. And I will see you next Saturday. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.